Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Fantastic Four issue 7/700 2022. Big milestone issue for the Fantastic Four, and damn is this cover isn't just great. And Doom factors heavily in this issue. And I think it's a pretty good celebration of the Fantastic Four, which also includes Doom and how pivotal he is. Now this one is $5.99. So take with that as you will if you want to go for this. I think it is worth the price for its deep dive into Doom and the whole kind of scenario of what's going on. This is a nice one of understanding the Fantastic Four's dynamic that we've been getting so far in this run, while also having Doom in here and having such a pivotal moment for him, and understanding of how he kind of operates within this run and with this creative team. So we start off and we see that this one is pretty much called The Enemy of the Good, which is the title and the chapters that we kind of get throughout here, which is really pertinent and really kind of goes through. So we see from the end that Johnny and Sue are trying to get away from Hill, and they pretty much just get out of sight so that way they won't notice them going invisible and shake them off like that. They pretty much get in contact with them, and with like the rest of them, Reed and Ben and Alicia, and they decide to regroup. But they're 12 hours from their destination. This time we'll have finally made it, as Ben would say, to his dear old Aunt Petunia's. And the house is pretty nice looking. It's like, alright, cool. Ben being like, ain't she a beaut? Wondering if they won't, if his Aunt Petunia won't mind. Nobody's lived here in ages, and that she's a fixer-upper. We're just the ones to fix her up. And then we finally meet Aunt Petunia, who's actually pretty cool. She's like, Benji, Aunt Petunia. Thanks for letting me and my friends stay here. Glad you'll be here. An empty house doesn't do anyone a lick of good. Than to make themselves feel at home. Alicia calls her Mrs. Grimm, and we're family. You can call me Petunia, Aunt Petunia if you like, and she, of course, does, and that's kind of a cool little moment. And we'll get y'all in and get y'all settled. Ben warned you about the dust and the ghost, right? He absolutely did not. I'm afraid that's what you get with an old house. Don't worry, she won't bother you a bit. It's like, okay, we'll have to see how that kind of goes. And then we see that Reed and Ben are like in these comfy chairs, and he's like, damn, Ben, I have to concede, this is an implausibly comfortable chair. Told you. Of course, Johnny's like, this is a million times bigger than my apartment in New York. Word is my great-great-great-grandma Bertha built the place, but eventually there wasn't anyone left who wanted it. Wait, she's the one who wants it? That's just Petunia pulling your leg. Of course, Reed's talking about the implausibility of ghosts and stuff, and then Johnny brings up Ghost Rider, and he's like, is a man alive, a live man who just looks like a ghost, and even then, only occasionally. And that there's like fresh linens, a bottle of champagne, which I'm like, damn, she's doing good for them. And then if they need anything to call, she's going to join them for breakfast. Say hi to Uncle Jake, and then she leaves, and then Johnny and Ben are trying to fight for the biggest room. Sue pretty much stops them, and Johnny's like, I'll give you the biggest room if you let me have the second biggest one, okay, Sue? And then we see that everybody's in their rooms, and that some creepy hand goes above Reed. And then we flip to the next morning, and it's weird because they're asking Reed to pass the coffee. Of course, your gentacular brew is on its way, thanks to my deliquescent, of course, meaning having the capacity to melt liquid like. How odd, I couldn't summon the word. Ha! Looks like you are only human after all, Stretcho. But this is the beginning. It's like, so what was kind of going on there? And then, of course, they didn't really have a plan beyond living there. They wanted them to stay, make this like the Bertha building for like the Fantastic Four. And there's like, yeah, of course, the Fantastic Four is back. Quit mugging and eat your eggs. I can do both. Then we gotta work for the meals, the walls need painting, the roof ain't gonna reshingle itself. And then we see them going to the roof to reshingle it. And then Ben, of course, can't do it because he's too heavy. And then he starts losing words as well. And Reed's like, that's strange if both of us had that kind of thing. Johnny's like, it happens to all of us. Even so, it might be worthwhile to refresh our vocabularies while we work. Johnny, do you know what sesquipedalophobia means? Oh my god, Reed, we're already roofing. Can we please not make this more painful? As they're just trying to do their stuff. And Reed pretty much tries to give him, like, a synonym for it. He's like, oh my god, Reed. But the thing is, Reed's right. Now, granted, he's going about it in his very own kind of Reed way, but it's like, alright. Then we go to Sue and Alicia painting a room. And Sue's using her force field power to catch up any paint on the floor. And Ben pretty much asked if that was going on. And is like, yeah, so it's essential to clean up. Then we see that Johnny starts having problems with words. And Reed's like, okay, this is getting kind of weird. So he decides to bring in a cardboard box and ask people what the hell it is. And they say everything but cardboard box. And it's like, and Reed's pretty much figuring it out. When I was having trouble remembering specific words, obscure ones, but still, all of us have since then experienced similar blanks at a rate that appears to be accelerating. How many letters are in our alphabet? 26. I know that too, as sure as I know my own name. 26. So why is it I can only recall 25 of them? And then we start seeing them trying to sing the alphabet and missing a letter. And he's like, this is not good. Something's taking away our language. It's like, that's a pretty big problem because then you can't communicate. So they're pretty much wondering if it was like due to a dimensional rotation or something like that. All of the different kind of stuff that they've gone through could have done it, but and then talking about like, I don't see how, but I don't see how any of this is happening. We're just lucky that it was an uncommon letter, and then kind of going through and trying to figure out, let's sing the alphabet song as sort of group language monitor if anything else goes away, and then they pretty much go to the Fantastic card to kind of use it to look into any kind of other stuff. They start losing, going down to 23 letters, and that it could be that it's getting worse. Alicia gets to the point where she can't remember her own name because of the letters going away. Somebody's then talking. He works frantically, desperately, even as the words melt out of his head. Each letter dissolves a swath of vocabulary with it. He can feel his thoughts becoming slippery, less precise, very impressionistic. And then we see that Johnny was pretty much using a light to show the Fantastic card, and then we see the ghostly kind of apparition, and Johnny's like, ah! And the look on his face is like, yep, I totally get that look. The singing stops, they have bigger problems to deal with, and still the letter A slips unnoticed from their minds. Now B, now S. How many words can they form with the paltry letters that remain? Fewer and fewer, and without language they can only fight as individuals, not as a team, which is important because their communication and their family dynamics and understanding of tactics with each other is a key part. You start breaking that down, ooh. Without language, they're hopeless. And that's when we start getting it. 3 letters remain, just 3, as they're kind of like going at it, but they're like doing collateral damage to each other. Unlimited set, true, but sufficient to prevent a single word to fall from their lips. The herald of their defeat. The appellation of their better, as we see that the ghostly apparition starts going into the house, and the letters left are O, M, and D. The mark of greatness. My name. Doom. Da-da-da. As we now move to chapter 2. My ghost dissolves as I take full control. They will neither move nor talk, but they will listen. One always appreciates a respectful audience. And then he starts pretty much pulling out what he was doing and explaining everything while he's playing this piano about how this dude made this concerto and that it was been a plundered composition for your popular music, including multiple acts of plagiarism by Francis Sinatra. That Rachmaninoff was the greatest pianist of his day and his own greatest critic. Knowing his potential but seeing nothing of value in his composition, he became depressed, blocked, until this revelatory piece. Its beauty assured Sergei his glory, its perfection his immortality. that, and then he brings it home to his point. It seems that for the determined, the very gifted, greatness will always be willed into existence. Now, to present to the present matter, you, of course, had any number of precautions, defenses, technological ways to detect this plot. Till everything went wrong, and suddenly you did. Well, you say, you know what they say. And then he pokes Reed, and he falls down. Time makes fools of you all. But, of course, Doom never puts himself into that, as we see that he starts to be made a fool of with what kind of goes on here. And then he's like, surely Richards could not have lost a city block filled with his own children. Yes, surely the Fantastic Four would not be reduced to beggars. You were up to something. Doom does not fall into traps, so I watched, I waited. And it's like, yeah, Doom would do that. That's perfectly in line. Doom would think that kind of way. And then he's bringing up the whole thing with, like, Dr. Storm doing the whole thing with the sun, stumbling into global extinction by accident. Nobody could fake that level of incompetence. And I'm like, Doom's an asshole, but he's also right. It's like, to get to a level like that, you're like, oh, fuck. But granted, mistakes happen. You have to fix stuff. He built his ghost, a being of science and sorcery, to introduce nanites into your bodies. And trust me, I'm not on Doom's side here. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, it spiraled out of control, and it was a way to fix the situation. Granted, dangerous, but sometimes you have to do weird shit to fix certain shit. And he's saying it was an obvious choice, given how they demonstrated on a global stage how precisely vulnerable you are to something small, independent, and self-powered. They've been removed, incidentally. You may now both move and speak. In his magnanimity, Doom permits you to beg. And it's like, God damn it, Victor. Why you gotta be such a dick? Of course, they then start trying to go into Fantastic Four mode and try and fight him. And that Dr. Storm Sue's force fields can't make their way into or around his armor. And that's an important plot point that's relevant in this issue. As they start going on, and we just see crazy-ass artwork going on as Doom pretty much demolishes them. Cracking Ben's arm, smacking the shit out of Reed, and blasting him through the house outside. And they're wondering why Doom's doing this, and he's like, to do what Reed couldn't. Richards, who failed my beloved goddaughter Valeria before she was even born. Richards, her father, who even now fails her yet again and again and again. Every moment he leaves her trapped in time. And it's like, damn, Doom's making this about himself, but he does care for people. And if he just did it in different kind of ways, he'd be better at dealing with this. And when he swore at her birth, she would be under his royal protection, Grimm, and under that protection she remains. You dared to think you could take a year of her from me without consequence, Richards? And it's like, yeah, you can't, like, granted, he was in a situation that he couldn't really think about that, but, like, now we see that Doom's like, I don't broker that shit. He's not here for something as petty as revenge. I'm here to do what that ridiculous mate of yours deemed impossible. Doom will save her. Doom will save them all. And it's interesting that Doom would fucking use this thing of trying to save people to just inflate himself. And that's how Doom works. Reed, of course, is warning him like that could kill them and present dire kind of consequences. And then he's like, I'm aware of your limitations. I propose to transcend them. And that the target's the size of an electron. They could arrive in space or fuse with mantle or magma or enough. I don't care. I know I'm going to succeed. Screw you. And then, of course, Reed's like, dear God, we've lost the kids now. It's like, yeah, there's nothing you could really do in that kind of manner, even though he's trying to, like, tell him not to. So then we get this interesting chapter where Doom tries to figure out how to stop all this. So he's single-handedly turning the tide of the battle himself and taking out the Annihilus and all the people from the negative zone. And everybody's like, ah, shit, Doom's on the battlefield now. And Reed still pushes the button to do the thing. And Doom's like, no! And then, of course, it puts him with the rest of the negative zone people. And he's like, damn it. He did it anyway, teleporting us into space and trapping his family in time. No matter, for Doom can simply go back and do better. So then we continue to see him doing these things. He breaks the button. And then we see that, like, even without the button, the device will activate itself. Now, granted, this is pretty much showing that Doom cannot fix this, that Reed chose the best kind of option as he's going through all this. He's like, fucking hell. He then goes to the kids and tries to, like, get Valeria out. And then, of course, the Fantastic Four show up because they were signaled by Nikki and Joe. And then, of course, the whole button scenario, Doom gets booped out. I attempt only saving Valeria, and still Richards interferes. I remove him from the board entirely, and his best friend presses the button instead, or his wife, or his brother-in-law. It is insufferable. It's like, yeah, I get Doom's frustration with this. Like, he's an asshole, and he's a dick, and he does stupid, horrible, crazy shit. But I get when you're trying to, like, help someone and everything continues to go wrong on this. Now, granted, he should just talk to them and try and do all these things. The problem is obvious. This world is already in a fatal state. It's too far gone and change is useless. Its final configuration now inevitable. To save Valeria, Doom must prevent events from ever getting this bad in the first place. So, the thing is, he's like, okay, I'm already in a fatal state, in a failed state, so I just gotta go further back. So he goes to the Reckoning War, and different ways that could have gone, but no matter what I improve, either Valeria is lost with Earth, with the entire galaxy, or both survive, and the negative zone invades anyway. It's trying to figure out all of the kind of combos of how these things work. It's the insanity of trying to, not the insanity, it's the hard kind of concept of trying to deal with this stuff. You have to essentially be on another level and have other abilities to do this kind of stuff. Kind of Q stuff from like Star Trek kind of being. No timelines go better, all go worse. It is, as I say, intolerable, and you kind of feel for him. I go back further. Doom shall not be denied. Some interventions appear to work, but a return to the present still reveals a world worse than the one I left. Doom falls as Latveria embraces democracy. It's like, yep, it kind of screws him sometimes. Valeria suffers. She dies 1,000 times. The planet dies 1,000 more. I undo them all. And the thing is, I think a little bit of this is affecting him, and that seeing all this just hurts. And I get that kind of thing. I mean, granted, it hurts his pride, it hurts his ego, but you just see everything going worse. I have all the time in the universe to try, and Doom does not fail. I spend years applying patches to causality, but no matter what I attempt, there's a constant that cannot be ignored. Endlessly, relentlessly, things always get worse. And I get that, man. It's nuts. He does wild interventions, preventing the Fantastic Four from forming in the first place, denying them their greatest victories, ensuring Valeria's birth through other means. Yet always I return to a world inferior to the one I remember. Why? Why? And it... Again, you feel for him for what's kind of going on here. In a universe where Galactus ran rampant, devoid of both life and light, I bring the strength of my mind to bear against the problem. Logically, if every intervention makes things worse, then things must already be the best they can be for me. It's Leibniz's theodicy made manifest in the world I left the best of all my possible worlds. And I actually had to look that up, arguing that of like the concept of why evil exists and why God would allow evil to exist if he's like omnipresent, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. That this has to be the best of all worlds through that kind of logical progression in theology and philosophy kind of thing. That's what he's referencing there, and that's a big thing to kind of like go into. I like that this comic deals with those kind of big concepts and that big science and is able to teach you and have you research and look stuff up. That's a great thing and what I've been loving about this run. So if you get this far and you're like, ah, shit, what's he going on about? Yeah, I love learning about this stuff and talking about this stuff. That's an interesting concept for Doom to even kind of bring up and for you to be like, oh, okay. There are only two ways that makes sense. The first is obvious. There exists a god, and Doom is his favorite son. A tempting fantasy for a child, but patently absurd. Doom does not place himself beneath a mere god. Thus, a single alternative remains. He's gotta just still make it like a dick move, man. It's like... His interventions always make things worse because my future selves have already optimized their past, and they have already ensured events are as favorable for us as they can possibly be. And yet, though I am the sovereign king of Latveria, master of all I survey, I am nowhere near where I deserve to be. I face setbacks. This is the best my future selves can manage. And then him just trying to figure that out, going back to various points in Marvel's timeline. Talking about how his future self must be failures, inferiors, which means that he must be inferior too. And then he just starts going nuts. He just is like, no, I cannot be inferior. He cannot accept that. He cannot accept failure. No. As he's just blasting through and taking people out and just going ham hog wild. And it's funny, he's like, how can a man possessing a time machine fail? He can't unless he's a fool. And it's like, continue kind of going through with it. Doom's no fool, there must be a solution, and yet I cannot see it. He sees the proof written in the fabric of time and space itself, that my ambitions will fail, have failed, must always fail, and why it is false, it is self-evidently false. I do not see a way around it. The idea becomes an obsession. I can't look past it. I do not, nor do I look away. It's a corrupting disease, a toxin curdling my focus, and that's like the negative death spiral kind of thing. That kind of just fucking that just like gets into people's heads, and it's understandable. So he's got to travel back to the start of this journey, prevent myself from undertaking, thereby denying the malignancy its chance to infect me in the first place. It is a great sacrifice, my own existence pruned, but it ensures an even greater good, an even greater doom. So we'll have to see if that works out. So Doom pops up, and Doom's like, yeah, I'm going to do what you guys couldn't do, and we see that he pretty much makes it so that way he loses in this confrontation with the Fantastic Four. It's a simple matter. The press of a button to sabotage my past self's technology remotely. Lesser men would hesitate, knowing what it means for their own existence, but Doom chooses glory, and Doom chooses oblivion as he gets taken out of existence. That timeline one, which is interesting that Doom would be able to be alright with that. Granted, from what we've seen, he knows that this will make sure that he doesn't go kind of buck crazy wild and not understand it. But Doom tires of your protests and won't let his actions speak for themselves. And then he's like, what the fuck? And then he thinks Richards is interfering with his armor. And then we see Seuss, Shield, Reed, and then, of course, she's talking about how there's a crack in his armor big enough to put a force field. And then he's like, I created these protections myself. Don't know what to tell you, Vic. Actually, no, I do. I can crush you into a singularity or expand your insides so quickly that they sublimate into plasma. I can put a hole in your head, a bubble in your brain, or fill your lungs with a vacuum with a thought. But I don't think I will. Assuming, of course, that you get the hell out of my friend's backyard. And then, of course, he's like, fools! Doom leaves not under duress, but because your ruination is so sweet, so complete, that I've already won. Valeria is still under my protection. Ensure she returns when expected, or you will face my wrath. It's like, fine, I will trust this to you, but say it in the most dickish way possible. Then, of course, this is Doom's victory! It's truly Doom, and it's like, yeah, he could be a really good guy and a really great hero, but he gets in his own way, and this story really showcases that. And then, of course, Johnny's like, I loved it, how you found that weakness, and he's like, no, it just appeared. Sometimes, brother of mine, we literally do just get lucky. And then, of course, we kind of see what I've been seeing and what we've been reading about, that Alicia calls him a poor man and that he's pitiable, and Ben's like, what do you mean? I know, babe, I know, but you see it, right? All that power, all that brilliance, that power, Victor could do incredible things, but he demands this perfection from himself, this impossible perfection, so when he fails, like we all do sometimes, but he can't handle it, I just think he's his own worst enemy, that's all, and that's the thing, I get that. I've had perfectionist kind of streaks myself, and tendencies in trying to make things as perfect as possible. So that really kind of speaks to me. Now, granted, I wouldn't go doom or anything like that. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna be that. I don't want to be that dick. But it's like I understand that, like, beating yourself up on that kind of stuff and what we see Doom go through in this issue really resonated with me, and it's interesting that it resonates with Alicia. And Ben's like, the day Doom starts cussing out himself instead of the Fantastic Four is the day I win Tony Stark's swimsuit competition. But that's the thing, Ben. Some people just do it in their own heads. Like, that's the thing that I get as well. And then Alicia's, you just might, babe. Let's go to bed. Doom's running scared for once, and we got ourselves a wall to rebuild in the morning. I'm right behind you, Sweet Pea. Tunia's gonna kill me if she drops by and sees the place like this. At least he didn't mess up my roof. And that's where it ends, and we see a lot of good letter pages and everything like that. And then we get another little bit as we are in the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. So, this is another setup that's kind of crazy. And then we see that it's Nick Fury Jr. talking with Maria Hill, being like, you let Sue and Johnny get away? Incredibly, I let them get far enough ahead so it didn't seem intentional. See, I want to stay on their good side. You don't really think she'd... I don't know, Nick. I don't know she and her brother could end all life on a planet a week ago either. This is an escalation, a new use of their powers that they... to do something that they couldn't do before. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes situations call on that to happen. We're going to keep the planet safe. We can't stumble into things like this. We need to know about them before they happen. But that's the thing. You try and do your best, but when you try and prevent things like this and act like that kind of asshole, this is where it works. She's starting a Skunk Works project tasked with inventing new and clever ways to combine existing superhuman powers, figuring out ways they could be weaponized, and how we might defend against them. Well, people defend against them. You know what I mean? That's what always happens, why the Avengers come up, why the superheroes band together to do what no hero can do on their own. Sounds like it might be a little beyond the CIA's mandate. It's slightly extra legal, I admit, but heck, it makes the acronym work and it saves the American taxpayer some graphic design money. So tell me, Nick, you got any room in your schedule for some freelancing, as we then see that they're trying to bring back S.H.I.E.L.D., but this time called the Superhuman Intelligence Extra Legal Division. It's like, that is very worrisome and troublesome, that we will have S.H.I.E.L.D. as a... That sounds more like Hammer kind of stuff, and she looks evil there. That's like, yeah, I'm going to do some bad shit. So we'll have to see how that kind of goes. So I overall think that this was a very good issue, giving a first kind of quirky, kind of weird thing for the Fantastic Four to deal with, before linking it back up to Doom and his whole kind of thing, and dealing with his whole hang-ups and really diving into his character. Because the last couple issues, well, not the last couple issues, the whole beginning of this run, we dove into the Fantastic Four as each individual character. So, one like this, a Milestone issue, that would have been kind of repeating some kind of stuff that we've seen before, and I kind of get that. This definitely was a celebration of the Fantastic Four and what they can achieve, them trying to figure out a kind of riddle, and then it being Doom, and then Doom trying to figure out the riddle himself before pruning himself from the timeline. It really gave a deep dive into his character that I really liked and really appreciated, because you understand where he's coming from, but still understand that he's a dick that cannot get out of his own way for what's been going on. And him trying to save Valeria and then spiraling into pretty much madness for being unable to accomplish this feat. It resonates with me on that kind of level. But the thing is, it's like, I'm not going to make armor out of like dead people and shit and do crazy weird ass magic and just be an asshole to people. I'd just try and help people. And if I can't help them with a certain way, I'd like talk with them. Like he doesn't talk with Reed to try and figure out certain ways. Sometimes you gotta bounce ideas off of people to understand why yours works, why it doesn't work, why their ideas and everything. He doesn't understand that. Reed does. I mean, Johnny says something that he thinks is stupid with the whole thing of like blotting out the sun to kill the algae. But Reed's like, that actually could fucking work. And it did! Like, it was an idea that Reed didn't think of, even with his big brain. But then, he got an idea from someone else, and his big brain was able to figure out how to make that work. Doom doesn't get that. He thinks he needs to be that for himself, and there is strength in being self-reliant, but you have to balance that with help from other people. That yin and yang, that push and pull, that understanding of, I have knowledge and experience that is helpful and useful, but so do they. And if we work together, we can be better and do better and have better solutions. Though granted, we also see how worse solutions can pop up with Maria Hill trying to create a superhuman intelligence extra legal division, and how that could go very, very wrong, because we saw how that worked with Norman Osborn. Alright, with the fallout of Civil War, Tony being like, yeah, I got S.H.I.E.L.D., and then that didn't work out completely well, and then we got fucking Osborn doing it. It's like, no. Now granted, it could be a little bit better since Norman's a little bit better now, working with Spidey and everything, but that Norman? No. So, I really like this issue. I think it's a nice celebration of Fantastic Four 700. It's more focused on Doom, so if you're not into that, that's alright, especially with it being $5.99, but I liked it. I love the art. I love the moral of the story. The whole thing, the enemy of the good is the perfect. So try and do the best that you can, but don't get hung up on it being the perfect solution, which of course Doom learns at the end. So I can't wait to see what goes on, how Doom could be factored into future kind of stories, though granted this was a big beefy one, so I don't mind them taking a break. I'm wondering if we'll get any kind of like Galactus level kind of stuff going on, or what other kind of crazy stuff will go on, but I really enjoyed this issue. I think it got its story and its characters very effectively forward, and I love being able to learn new kind of awesome thing and be like, you know what, I kind of want to research certain stuff with this. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.